Welcome to the final part of the BLiNX 100% walkthrough with all cat medals and S ranks in every single level. Welcome to the ever so difficult Forge of Hours. In the first level, the shortest one by a good portion is the one that has 420 as its time limit. You know things are going to be really rough. And for the sake of saving time, since none of the cat medals are too far out of the way here, in fact only one is out of the way at all, I'm actually going to get all cat medals along with the S rank in one run this time. Because the first cat medal is right up here, where I'm going to be picking up these bits of trash anyhow. And I do recommend just jumping down here for the sake of saving time, even though it will lose you a little bit of gold and a couple time crystals. Since it's a really long way down if you decide to stay on the chain. There's nothing wrong with deciding to have some of the enemies generate some trash for you in this room, but I usually don't spend much time on it. I don't really see the point of hanging that bomb either. Now, it's really easy to see all the bits of molten metal here as they come up towards you, so it's really not necessary to use any kind of time control. On the other hand, speaking of time controls, you can use either pause or slow here. I like to just use a slow because I never use slows anyways, and I like to get rid of them. I like to cancel out the time control animation by jumping, as you saw there, and there's the second cat medal, one that's actually pretty difficult to avoid deliberately. It can be more of a challenge to not collect it, I think. And now we get to the slightly more difficult version of the last one. I don't press that button ever because I believe it just lowers the lava level like the other button did that I hit earlier. But I actually did that I misshot intentionally because that lets me do this. It's not too hard to jump across that portion, just looking out for all the molten metal, even though you can't see it very far in advance. But it's nice to be able to just run across there. You can also use a fast forward to get across without handing over too much because you have some invincibility frames, or you can just use a retry if you want, or any other time control. Because I like to use a pause in this area anyhow immediately afterwards. Although I don't always do it. I just try to scope things out first because I don't like spending any time in this area if I have to. Since I find these conductors really, really annoying. They just pulse between each conductor a lot more quickly I'd like it to. You can see there are a few specified points that it will touch. And if you do anything accidental, such as backflipping, you're gonna fly straight into one of them. Because it switches between them so quickly that there's really not much of a way to safely get around without being incredibly deliberate. Hi, BLiNX. It's a nice face. Pair that with some very bothersome enemies such as spikers, and you don't have a very fun time ahead of you. This one portion is probably the hardest portion of this entire level, for better or worse. Once you find yourself in a little safe space, though, you should try to take advantage of that. Provided that you don't miss point-blank shots. The point here, though, is just to get to this portion quickly, not unscathed. So if you have to do some dirty things, make use of your mercy, invincibility, and the like. I'm trying to get an S rank here, not get a perfect no-hit run. Although wasting your trash isn't the best one. Now, I do like to get some trash over here, and I actually noticed that you can get a piece of trash through this wall over here, which I like to do in advance, just to collect some trash that's in a safer location. Put that aside. You have more hazards, that's fun. So before worrying about that, I like to top off the trash, and then not worry actually about hitting the switch. You're supposed to be able to hit the switch, I believe, which will stop these gears from turning, but I decide that's not really necessary. You can get across there, I just about did, without issues, without time controls, but, and as you saw, sometimes you just need to say screw it and use the most invincibility if you have it. That's the only cat medal that's almost out of the way, but now we have all three of them. There's off in a little corner on the main rapid ready. This button is actually rather nice too. Just hold it down for a moment so that it'll take a while to wear off. And then make your way across. Just stay away from where the bombs explode over towards the lava or molten metal or whatever it happens to be. I do have a particularly difficult time, unfortunately, hitting some of these octoballoons here, but that's why I stocked up on as much trash as I did earlier. You definitely want to try not to waste any trash here if you happen to not have the TS-2000 freeze, because we're going to have a... yes, the TS-2000 freeze, because we have a fire dragon up ahead here. Thankfully, though, it's actually rather... Why did I say that? It's actually rather easy to get through this part without anything blowing you up. Just be careful about this one portion over here with the bombs that get caught on the wall. If you really want to, you can use time control to get through this portion as well. I would really recommend getting through some of these portions by Iron Manning it with a fast forward, since that'll give you invincibility frames without using a retry. Or you could also just use a retry. But be aware, there's a lot of knockback when you hit by something in fast forward mode. But anyhow, I really recommend using Ultimate Sweeper here so that you can sweep things up quickly enough to try to avoid having enemies hurt you while you're up close to them, and get rid of the Flame Dragon quickly. That done though, notice that it's not exactly cutting it close, but this game doesn't give you that much extra time on stage 1. I only beat out by about 40 seconds. So it's not a bad idea to actually put some effort into this one as compared to some of the other easier S-rank levels that we've run into up until now. Lots more trash than I needed, admittedly, but I made it. Alright, this is where we get into the long time limits, and this one is where we find that, once again, difficult hazards aside, things are actually pretty easy for S-ranks. Now, if you have a fast enough sweeper, and level 2 at that, I'm not sure if any sweepers other than BTS XL can do this. I like to just smash this spiker in the face right off the bat. The TS-16000S might be able to do it, I haven't tried. Not in recent memory at least. Anyhow, for some reason this Typhoon actually leaves you alone until you decide to approach it. So you can deal with the spiker in peace and then get rid of it immediately afterwards. And there's not really a reason to be particularly cautious here, you can just run on across. The timing is simple enough. And then lots of enemies hug around it, but thankfully all these enemies spawn trash for you if you kind of be in need of it. However, there's lots of trash already strewn around, and even more than you might initially expect if you look in some of the corners. So it's good to spend some time picking some stuff out of there while you're waiting for enemies to recover from having gotten hit. At the same time, don't feel afraid of focusing some enemies into shooting more at you while you're waiting as well. It's all there for you to use. Navigating the giant mess of time crystals can be an issue of its own, but that's another matter. Just make sure you bring along some pauses and Forge of Hours and you'll usually be okay. Fast forwards, like I said, can be helpful if you want to use it for Iron Manning through some parts of the level by using the invincibility frames it can give you after you get hurt. But I wouldn't use it for actually saving time because there's so many hazards here that are made so much more difficult by using fast forward. Hurting enemies at really any proximity is always made hard by using fast forward too. Not very conducive environment to using fast forwards, for better or worse. This is a decent example where you can suck up some bits of a, well, sometimes, some bits of a trash monster. Trash robot. But I haven't had a bit of a hard time with this one. If you decide to hit some of these clocks and revolve this one, it's not actually a bad idea because even though it takes a little bit of time, if you use some level 1 trash and knock it out in the air, you actually get one piece of trash back for it, and that piece of trash is level 1 as well. And in fact, it's worth more than most trash do. So it's not exactly a bad trade-off, just uses a little bit of time, but also makes it easier to hit the trash robot immediately afterwards. I call those trash robots, by the way, but it's not their official name. Their official name is something along the lines of Tada Robot, as in like, Tada, I did a magic trick. But that doesn't translate very well into English. Probably call them magic robots if nothing else. Anyhow, this part, I never really know what to do here. I discovered that if you just stand in place, this giant arm won't usually knock you off into the lava. Usually. If you're too worried, you can use the slow. Or if you want to get across quickly and have some tentacles to kill, you can use maybe 2 fast forwards in a row if you're pretty good at cutting it close with the Mercy Invincibility. Oh, thank you. Here's a beautiful example of when you need to use retries to fix a mistake. Okay. Game was merciful enough to not leave me off when I was still doing the side flip. Anyhow, here, this is when you need to learn your limits, because it's possible to scale this second gear and pause. It's not fun, but it's possible. In fact, if I jumped off to the side of the gear, I could have theoretically gone across, but it's not easy. I managed to do it on a practice run, which is why I tried to do it here, but what I recommend doing, for the sake of saving time, is not what I'm doing here, because I'm killing a lot of time. So for some reason, you can't stay on these things even though they look really good in regards to their angle. I made that jump before, but it's not working this time. The more economic thing to do would be to just not hit the button to pause the gears, move up to where the gears are about crushing you, between the 2 gears, and then... oh, time controls are conflicting. There we go. That was strange. Retries do weird things to time controls sometimes. And then use the rewind, as you saw there, to have the second gear turn the direction you want it to. Which means you want to bring along a number of time controls into this level. Which is why you might have noticed, for pretty much the entirety of this playthrough, I've always had almost, if not actually every time control on hand at once. Because it's very useful to have them all on hand. Because sometimes you need some very strange things to get through a level quickly or easily, or to get a cat medal. Yeah, nothing I haven't seen before. Doesn't mean it's fun, however. Thankfully, one nice way to stay away from... oh, come on. Fly car. One nice way to stay away from the dangers of this conductor is to just stand on this pipe. And sometimes to stand on other trash as well, but that depends on how big the trash is. Standing on that giant car is a good way to do it, actually. But what I like to do is use that car for getting rid of the robot instead. I also like to get a retry, if I may. Ah! Alright. So that out of the way, just make sure you pay attention to where all of the conductors are on the outside. So you know where the beams will form all the electrical arcs. And it's not too bad to get around for the most part, as long as you can judge how far you can jump relatively well. That's stage 2 done, but of course you still have the cat medals to find. This one actually does have some effort required for getting its cat medals as compared to the first level. Which is interesting, I think. But this is the level that actually requires you to use the TS2000 Flame if you want to get some of your cat medals. Of course, that also happens to be something you can accomplish by using the Ultimate Sweeper, TSX7, but that's not very useful at that point since you already have the cat medals, isn't it? But for the sake of demonstration, what I like to do is just jump up to this first portion here from the opening of the area, from the goal gate, or rather from the start ring, and then jump up here. But you can also just ascend the stairs in the beginning area and then run around here instead. There's also another way to get down there, but it kind of kills some time. Anyhow, so more fire you need to get rid of. And as a lesson, make sure you take your time to get rid of that fire, because it takes a lot longer than you'd think sometimes. I find that usually you want to just keep sucking the fire until BLiNX stops looking at it. And that's the point at which it's good to proceed. Another way to test it is just stop using your super for a second, and then if the flame doesn't come back, it's safe. So So, there are a few ways to get this particular cat medal. I just use a pause once the platform's in the right spot. You can also Iron Man it with a fast forward, as you can many things in this level. You can also probably do some really strange things to record and dragging the medal along by sucking on it but not actually picking it up, things like that, but no reason for complicating things. Anyhow, the next cat medal is actually right next to this. And like the others, it actually requires the use of the flame sweeper. How nice. It's a common theme in this particular level you haven't noticed. Suck out all the flames and you can get the medal sitting in plain sight. If you like backtracking for some reason or another and wasting your own time, you can also pick up this medal here. And immediately afterwards, after some very deliberate walking across a very thin line, I suppose, just jump straight down into the other medal to get all 3 medals in quick succession. Of course, you can't get out of this part if you don't have the flame sweeper. Not that you could have gone there if you didn't have it anyways. Anyways, on to the final level of the game. Final normal level, that is. With a crazy time limit of 7 minutes. Not the longest, but a long one. Now, for some reason, I have it in memory that at some point, I managed to get through this first part of the level without ever using time controls. I don't know why I would have ever wanted to do that. I don't know how I could have done it. So maybe I'm just misremembering it, but this is a pain to get through without using pauses. Because the issue is, you need to keep track of all the safe spots, which spots are and are not safe, and it's kind of hard to tell sometimes. It's really not time saving in any way to get through here without using a pause though, so I have really no recommendation of doing that. Use a pause, hit some stuff, get through when you can, and then find your safe spot, which happens to be around some trash over here, conveniently enough. And then give a nice little goodbye note to knock balloons on your way out. These gears, by the way, are really nice to use as ammunition, especially for things that are far away because they're really wide. It's a bit better than using the trash cans, I think. I forgot to mention this, but I'm also going to be doing this level in a single run as well. I'll be collecting all 3 cat medals in one run here because they're all quite, well, along the path. They're not out of your way. This is a grand part over here. All the many spikers, as you can see, here at once. And this is where you really need to employ all your trickery with being rid of these things. You can try to have them fall onto the lava and then work from there. However, they can actually climb back up onto the platform from the lava, so it's not the best way of doing things, because you still can't really take your eyes off of them, because they'll jump back on the platform and then hit you in the back when you're not looking. These spikers are an amazing example of why it's great to have a level 3, well, not necessarily a level 3 sweeper, but a good sweeper, fast sweeper. Because being able to suck things up quickly is the cornerstone of getting rid of them in a convenient manner. As it means you can suck up trash while they're trying to attack you. Now, if I let this one live, which I hopefully won't, there you go. If I would have let that one live right there, as it turned into a spike again, or a ball of spikes again, as it tried to attack me, what would have happened was it would have jumped onto the platform again and actually managed to hit me. Now, I don't particularly feel like running across over there to get rid of this dust trigger, so I'm just going to keep my distance. And look at that, another convenient cat medal. Now, I suppose you don't need to use a pause here to get this cat medal, but there's really no reason not to, I don't think. This little bar that it's on is a very quickly rotating one, and it's easy to fall off. But you also want to use the pause to get those gears anyhow to get to this next platform, so it seems like the right course of action. Now, if you can be careful about it, you can actually rid of both these enemies without them bothering you in any way. Again, it helps a ton to have the right sweeper. I suppose if you don't want to use all 3 sweeper, the best sweepers to use for round 3 are TS2000 Freeze, then the TS2000 Flame, then TS2000 Freeze again, in that order with respect to the stages. There are never any 16-ton weights in any of these stages, so there's no actual need for a level 3 sweeper, but it's really, really helpful to have a fast sweeper. So having the TS16000S or the TSX7 is really just something you prefer anyhow for getting S ranks, and for getting through levels in general. Alright, more electricity, hug around. Well, thankfully, the game decides to give us a little bit of consolation by giving us 2 bits of level 2 trash here. Along with the piece of level 2 trash we already have, actually, which I'll use very happily. Amusingly enough, this trash isn't really necessary. If you want to get craft, you can actually shoot these and leave them on the ground and then use them to platform over the arcs of electricity formed by this conductor. But I find you can just run around the long way instead, and everything will be okay. I like to get a piece of level 1 trash here though, so I don't have to use a piece of level 2 trash on an octoballoon we're about to find right now, because for some reason the game decided that one of the last enemies in the game had to be a little wimpy level 1 octoballoon, which amuses me greatly. You also get some pretty generous with retries for some reason at this part. All times. But that's also when it decides to throw some record crystals at you, so it's possible you don't have a record here when you need it. Also, for some reason, that particular robot seems to only have 2 HP. I don't know why. Anyhow, another reason it's great to always have particular kind of controls on you. You cannot complete this level without a record, to my knowledge. Perhaps you could get to this part fast forwards, but if you had a number of them, something like that, I'm not quite sure. But this game actually requires you, or expects you at least, to take advantage of the invincibility of the record here, which the game hasn't necessarily told you much about yet. Or rather, you might not remember it from the game told you back when you first cut to your first retry. But assuming you know how to do that. Run across. And okay, that's a nice waste of trash. And pick up some gold as a reward. Usually there's more bigger gold here, not small bits, but whatever. The game didn't feel so nice for me right now. But we have some leisure time, so let's just enjoy a nice big look at this place, because for some reason, I feel that this place just looks really cool. And with it being the most challenging level in the game, I'd probably say it is, because of its crazy environmental hazards. It's a fun kind of challenging. I just like to sit back and look and appreciate it. Get such a nice feeling at the end. It's more fun environmental hazards than I think everyone could have. And some crazy trials. And yet we can triumph over its time limits by well over 3 minutes. Quite happily. With all the cat medals, no less. So this is, despite being a very difficult stage, very challenging one, actually not too bad with regards to 100%ing things. As long as you can complete the level in the first place, it's not really a problem. And you can see here that I actually, amusingly enough, at least to me, didn't use any retries on this one as compared to some easier levels that I lost a few on to dumb mistakes. All you have to do is learn the way to navigate its various hazards, which ways are easy and whatnot, and it's just a matter of doing it with those spikers, honestly. On to the last boss. I say last boss because you don't actually get a grade on your time in the final boss of the game, in round 9 in Momotopoulos. So this is why I'm going to be ending the guide with this boss instead. Because if you have, well, if you only get all S ranks, this is where the game will end for you. I like to use 3 spike bullets here, although this actually has 8 HP. So it won't be a bad use 4. It's just that I get kind of tired of trying to manage my trash inventory, because you actually have to kill the small enemies in this one, despite the fact that you didn't have to in the last magic robot battle. What I like to do is take on a ton of pauses, and use 1 pause every time to kill all 3 enemies. Thankfully, we actually have the time to do that. That means picking up some trash to kill them with instead of using the spike bullets. If you wanted, you could probably blow a ton of money on having a bunch of spike bullets or something like that. Or perhaps you could actually even buy super bombs to get rid of those enemies in large clusters very quickly. If you happen to always manage to get them when they're close to each other, which they oftentimes do, as you can see right here. But if all you want is an S, might as well make it easy on yourself and just get a bunch of pauses and the appropriate trash. I'll also pick up some more pauses while we're here, since this level is actually kind enough to us to give us 2 of every time control. No, not... well... at least 1 every time control. To avoid the boss, I suppose I might as well add some general help as well. To avoid this thing rolling at me, I always just try to go with the flow of the... not quite conveyor, but of the platforms moving around. It's really easy to avoid as long as you do that. Don't try to fight the rotation. And if you don't have to have the aid of a moving platform, it can be kind of hard to avoid getting hit sometimes, getting run over. That's why I actually find the first part of this fight, when nothing's rotating, to be harder than most of the rest. Anyways, once you've gotten rid of those little smaller robots, the boss usually becomes vulnerable really quickly and leaves itself open. So it's good to try to do it as quickly as possible. And sometimes it won't even go into its ball form if you can do it right, I think. Anyhow, I would finish off the fight right here if I actually had a 4th spike bullet, but I didn't. So you can just go through one more round, which isn't too bad. Because thankfully I'm going to have all the trash that I need already. Actually, it's easier to hit all of the little mini robots as this fight progresses as well, because of how the height difference appears in all of this in the ring, and you get stuck in there. Anyhow, once that's done, there you go. Now, do beware if you use a pause and kill the boss while the game, or while the pause is active. If you touch the boss's body, even though it's out of health entirely at 0 HP, it will kill you if you touch it, which most other bosses don't do. Odd, I know, but anyhow, that is the entirety of this walkthrough of BLiNX 100%. Hopefully you have enjoyed getting everything in this game that it has to offer, all of its prizes and everything else. So, thank you for coming with us. I hope you had a wonderful time.